much for tuning in this evening. It is always a pleasure to be here live with you. I always start off by saying that your time is a valuable thing, that you work hard to stow away, and spending a little bit of yours with me is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Scott, thank you so much for showing up. Maddie, how you doing, sir? Let's see here. Yeah, that looks good. Button myself up here. It's not that kind of party. All right. Good to see everybody here. Probably just like everybody else, since our Wednesday live stream, Thursday on, I've been pretty much well glued to my TV, trying to get as much information out of Los Angeles as I could, being a Los Angeles native, and knowing many people who still live there, including my family. I had great concerns. It is a good thing to say that my parents are safe, my sister and nieces and nephews are safe, but the city is not. A lot of the places that I grew up hanging out at, a lot of the homes of friends of mine in the Palisades, and some of the areas there in between actually are gone. And some of the restaurants and places on the PCH that I tried to visit as whenever I could, if I could make time to at least experience it, are gone. And so it was quite an alarming thing. Scott Bogfoot, out of my studio, I would only say guitars, no gear. They're case queens, so ready to go, but with 40 plus guitars, it would take a while to get them all loaded in a trailer and over to my warehouse. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, Scott. We're going to talk about that. Michael Watson, hey, how you doing, sir? Ben, hey, how you doing? You're doing. So a lot of anxiety there, and a lot of grief and heartache. Some good positive things too. A lot of heartache, to be honest with you guys. You know, it's it's a bad feeling. It's just an amazing thing to see the images that are coming in the aftermath of some of those neighborhoods. And my immediate thought, outside of the losses of the houses and things like that, were the losses of the recording studios. Some of them that in the Palisades that I visited, didn't record in them, but I drifted in and out most of the studios in LA, major studios in LA at one point. But it hit me. I said, my goodness, the loss of vintage gear. Joe Bonamassa got his stuff moved out. Unfortunately, Bob Clearmount did not. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But just that is also a kicker to me, being a lover of music gear and a lover of animals. We won't even get into that, and people. But tonight we're going to focus on things that you can do to possibly, in emergency situation, be somewhat prepared to get your most important gear or your most important guitar, whatever it is, or guitars, out. So I thought I would sit down this weekend and come up with some ideas, some thoughts, and some of the things that actually I have here myself. I have ample cases here that I use that are set aside just for that reason. Well, we'll talk about that. Maddie, two hats. Unfortunately, my uncle and kids lost their home in LA. I'm very sorry to hear that, Maddie. My uncle says a composer and lost his home studio also. Yeah, a lot of home studios went up, guys. You have no idea. And the sophistication of some of them, and the work that was put into setting them up. Some homes were built around, some of my producer friends, their houses were built around their studios. Devastated about Bob Clearmountain. He had an amazing setup, yeah. So, let me get to my notes here. the recent fires there in Pacific Palisades and Altadena, by the way, too. You guys, Altadena is something that doesn't get mentioned and should be mentioned greatly. I spent a great deal of time in Altadena, especially hiking up in the mountains above Altadena. Time there, and I have a lot of memories of that area, and it is incredible to see the footage of the drive that I was going up into the foothills. That every single solitary structure is gone. And that also includes African American community, musicians and producers that also lost their studios as well. So all the way around, guys, a lot of things. These studios are more than just buildings. They're the soul of our music community. Is something that I want to get across, because we're talking about the loss of the soul of the community in a lot of cases as well. Housing, irreplaceable gear, and memories. Imagine this, guys. You have minutes to evacuate. In some of the cases with some of these folks, they literally had minutes. They were able to grab enough change clothes, and that's about it. But, let's just say you have a little bit more warning than that. What would you grab? Would it be your guitar, your hard drives, or maybe a vintage amp? In a moment of panic, it's hard to think clearly, which is why you want to prepare so that you have a plan in mind. And that if that situation happens, and it can happen in a number of ways, that you are prepared, clear-minded, at least about the plan you have in place. That's why we hold a solid escape plan here in this house, and it is a crucial thing for every studio to have as well. Sadly, many in our community, including legendary engineer Bob Clearmountain, have experienced the loss of their studios. These aren't just places of work, but sanctuaries of creativity over the decades. So tonight I thought that we would honor their loss by preparing ourselves better. So there's that. Let me catch up here in the chat. I seen that Herman Lee had to leave the guitars behind. Yeah. The amount of stories go. It's saxophones in the case of one Altadena jazz saxophonist in his studio, his equipment, his recording. Yeah. Sadly, many in our community have experienced this loss. So again, it's just devastating. So let's put our grief aside and talk about ways that we can make an effective escape plan that will work regardless of the size of your studio, big or small. Make a list of your most valuable and irreplaceable items. Assess your studio. Prioritize them based on importance and portability. Portability is key. We're going to talk about Bob and what he lost in a moment and what he could save, but prioritize them based on importance. It doesn't have to be value. It could be a connection or a non-material value, something personal, and portability. Now, as was mentioned there in the chat, that there are guys out there who have huge collections of guitar, basses, and things of that nature. And you would be placed in a position, much like these folks, to prioritize exactly what it is that is key for you to get out. And it's it's like unfortunate six Schindler's List type of situation where you have to choose the ones that are, in the back of your mind, if something happens, you're going to lose it. So there's that. Now you should always have a grab and go bag. Now this grab and go bag, I have mine. It's empty, obviously, but in a moment's notice, I can throw things in: computer, hard drives, a pedal or two. This should include essential items like hard drives with backups of your work, all valuable gear like pedals, and important documents. So a grab and go bag. Mine is literally sitting right here. I can't see it. I don't want to turn around too much, but it's right here behind me. And it's in that spot. And if I have to run, that's what things that I've designated to go in there will go in there. Identify exits and routes. Know all possible exits in your home and studio. That's for those of you who have basement studios. It is probably in your best interest to always have a good escape plan in that scenario. Above ground studios, when you're talking about second, third, fourth floor, it's kind of the same thing, just in reverse. So know your home studio, plan at least 2 escape routes in case one blocked. Second thing is practice your plan. Drill it once or twice. Practice perfect. I set that bag there. I have these cases here. Now they're not a priority. In my scenario, it would be to grab my bag, which would have some key documents and hard drive, computer, a pedal or two. One bag, gig bag, soft bag, one of these here, I have quite a few, that put in what I consider to be a guitar that I want to be a keeper, probably that parts caster that I'm finishing up with Fern. And then the rest of that's going to be a dog in this hand, a cat cage on the other arm, because I've got dogs and cats, and that's going to be that. And I've thought that out, and it is something that is in my mind, and these assess that, and pretty much will know how that's going to go down. So practice your plan. It is really, again, like I've said, something that we don't expect, but we should be prepared for. We should be prepared for. We should always have a mindset of the worst case scenario. And I think that we have a thing called cognitive dissonance, where we believe that one day is going to be the same as the other. The people in the Palisades, and I could attest to it because even though I'm thousands halfway across the world from them, but having grown up there, lived there, Palisades High is gone. I dated a girl from Palisades High. I used to go up there. Anyway, yeah. I won't say her name because she's somewhat famous or infamous, but at the point, but in any case. And I wouldn't imagine that it'd be gone. It's, again, so that cognitive dissonance that one day will be the same as usually will get you screwed. And you always have to have in the back of your mind that there are things that can happen. Even things that short of an asteroid peeing out of hyperspace and and hitting the Earth, pretty much, well, you can expect some things. You can pretty much well say, well, there could be a possible fire, there could be a possibility of flood, there could be, depending upon where you live, things of that nature. So there's that. Benny, how you doing, sir? Doing well, mostly. Again, I like to offer solutions. I could point out why, my thoughts on the who, where, and how, and why, but I think solutions in this case would be most helpful. So am focusing on that tonight and getting yourself ready to deal with a unexpected situation, and you have seconds, hopefully more than seconds, minutes at least, to make a decision you should about what to take, and you should have already made that decision long before. Document your gear. Take photos and videos of all your equipment. You should be doing this anyway for your insurance purposes. If you have homeowners or apartment renters insurance, then it is always good for you to insure your goods. Make sure that you have that kind of coverage. And the best way that you can help yourself out in the case of even theft, or natural disaster is to have photos and video, and that's something that's going to be on a hard disk that's going to go into that grab and go bag. See how that works? Insure your equipment if you can. If you can. In the case of what we're talking about here, there's no insurance. There's no insurance for this pedal board. The only insurance I can give this pedal board is that it's got a case. I can immediately pick the whole thing up, disconnect all the wires, put it in a case, which is sitting right here, close the lid on that case, and it is supposedly fireproof, but you don't know. You never know. It is not a priority. Maybe one or two pedals, but investing in fireproof storage for small, valuable items like microphones and pedals and hard drives, even consider a fireproof safe. I have a fireproof safe sitting over here in the corner. It's a heavy mug. I've had it for years. I've had it for 15 years now, maybe. Yeah, about 15 years I've had it for. And it has served me well. Nice Japanese made and bought in Japan safe that I've lugged around with me, but it's fireproof and it's where my important documents go. So an investment, something like that, is certainly something that everybody at that level should do. In the case of a lot of those homes in Brentwood, I really wonder what percentage of them had a fireproof safe. If they had a fireproof safe, the chance of throwing things in there and them making it through a house blaze is pretty good. And so, you got to deal with looters. But if I had a house like that, if I had a multi-million-dollar house, believe me, I'd have a bigger safe than this one. I'd have one like Tommy Lee had. You guys see the movie Pam and Tommy? You see that safe he had? I'd have one of those. Believe me. Believe it. When I saw that movie, I was like, I'm going to get me one of those one of these days. What a coincidence, Ben Obark says, that the insurance companies cut all the fire insurance to so many not long before the fires. Well, I don't want to get too much into that, but the reality is it was because they looked, what's a good analogy for this? You're the porta potty rental company, and you go to a fairground that is holding the world's largest chili eating contest. If you dig my meaning. And they don't want to deal with that shit. And that's exactly what the insurance company said to the Californians when they saw that there was so much brush that wasn't being cleared, so many water reserves that weren't being filled, that we don't want to deal with that shit. And that gets back to who is the fault of that. Cui bono? Who benefits? Always ask that question. Cui bono? Who benefits? Upload the pictures and videos to a cloud network or send it yourself on Google Drive or something. Yes, very good, sir. Cloud backups was number 4 on my list. So have you my notes? Regularly back up all your projects to the cloud to ensure that you don't lose your work if physical hard drives are destroyed. We have that aspect available to us in this day and age. And so there's that. It is a positive thing to have the technology in some cases available that people even didn't have 10, 15 years ago. And this is one of them. Now, in the aftermath of the fires, we've heard countless stories from the community. I've heard countless stories personally. I'm worried about my friend Jock's studio. I really am. It was in Studio City. And he invested, he stayed. He stayed. I left, but he stayed. And if I had stayed, I'd have a comparable setup to his. A very nice recording studio. I've been reaching out to him. I haven't heard from him yet, but I hope that's okay. Some lost everything, however, from vintage amps and pianos to irreplaceable recording equipment. And these stories remind of the harsh reality of such disasters and the importance of being prepared. If any message that I give tonight in this short live stream discussion, I would like to get that across. Most importantly, the importance of being prepared. Now, I opened this up talking about Bob Clearmountain. I read the article about him discussing the situation. His daughter called him and said, "Dad, you got to move. You just got to get stuff going." And fortunately, his wife is the president of Apogee, if you're familiar with that software company. They had trust, so they were able to get out everything with the exception of two things that personally break my heart. First thing is his Bosendorf piano, his grand piano. You're just, what are you going to do? You cannot move grand piano out of a studio at in minutes. So it's gone. The worst loss is his SSL board. As you guys know from my studio stories, that I cut my teeth on two SSL boards. One was owned by Babyface, and the other one his Brandon's Way studio, and the other one Yap Young when I worked there, and the other one was a small private studio that I cannot remember, that Motown leased out for people to do remixes. I was doing remixes for Motown. And I had an engineer assigned in the case of them, but I acted as a second as well as the producer, mixer, and all that. In the case of Babyface Studio, I got the opportunity to learn how it worked by setting up the tape machines, the SMPTE, the MIDI connections, and all those things, setting it up for a session. So running tones, things like that. So, that hurts, because that board recorded Hungry Heart, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure I'm not. Musical history is pretty solid in my head still. And onwards to countless other songs that you could, that are out there. Every board has its own sound. Not two SL boards are the same. And it is without question that Bob had a particularly sweet sounding SSL board. And the loss of that board in the music history, in the case of future projects, things of that nature, is just unimaginable. And as I share these stories, I hope they inspire you to take action on your side. The loss of gear in studios is heartbreaking, but what's even more important is our safety and the ability to rebuild afterwards. And most importantly, continue to create music. Now, there's a lot of musicians that lost everything. Again, I saw several stories. We had one shared with us here. Some things just can't be replaced. So you really, really want to have a plan, guys. You really want to have a plan. Now, I uh, again, for myself personally, could see grabbing a guitar, like I said, because, and also, by the way, it would not be a heavy weight would have a lot to do with that as well. To be frank with you, uh, I might just grab my lightest one because if you're running, you don't want a 10-pound Lester on your back. You really don't. If you have, and that's if you have the kind of saw case like I had that acts as a backpack. If you're stuck with one of these hard cases, you are, SOL basically. Again, one of the reasons why you want to have a plan is because you want to know what am I packing, what am I going to grab, what's my priority on that, and what am I going to pack it in. Even like I said, down to my cats, they have their cases ready at the downstairs at the foot of my steps near the entrance, and they're ready to go with a little bit of kibble and a bottle of water as well in each of them. So, you kind of have to just plan it out, think it out. It's something that's a drag. It's not a pleasant thing to think about, but it is something that you want to do. And realize that you're going to have to let a lot of stuff go. But if you plan well, restarting or re-beginning again somewhere else would be a lot easier. A lot easier. It's better to start from somewhere than nowhere. Although I often started somewhere and found myself nowhere. But that's a different story for another time. But these are the things that you want to think about. Again, assess studio, prioritize the most valuable items, and know what to grab. Create the grab and go bag. Identify your exits and routes. Document and insure your gear. And invest in fireproof storage and cloud backups. So these are the things that I thought about that you could do in order to, stay prepared and safe. And again, like I said, it's kind of a drag thing to think about, but it is something that you do have to consider and you do have to plan for. Again, like I said, some cats made it with stuff, some cats lost everything. Oh God, my mind is drawing a blank now. It's funny the things I can think of, things that I can't. What's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. His house, anyway. He's a shop owner on Ventura Boulevard. God, why can't I think of it? It'll come to me. The fire got within, he said, 100 feet or so of his place. That's virtually nothing. And unfortunately, they were able to get it out, and it stayed out. But he had quite an instance of a guitar collection in his house. I'm fine, Marco. How are you? Good to see you here. Thank you for joining the chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to chime in. It is just staggering, the losses. Thank you. Good to see you're fine. God, why can't I think of his name? Man, this is driving me nuts right now. It's not a good place to have a brain fart when you're doing a live stream. But anyway, just a lot of folks that I know of that I don't know directly, indirectly, that I also was very interested to see how things ended up with. And on Ventura Boulevard, if that fire gets down to Ventura, which it easily could, you have, so many guitar, again, like the owner, the guy that I was just talking about, their dealership, their guitar shops there, up and down Ventura. And I don't know how they're going to move that in a short amount of time. I'm sure they have a plan, especially with things going on right now. But I would be moving half of my inventory out right now anyway. I really would. Wouldn't if I was in Ventura, I would do that. But you know, norms. That's who I'm talking about, Norm. So the fire got within 100 feet of Norm's house. Norm keeps a lot of good stuff in his house. He keeps his real primo stuff at home, by the way. And that didn't get damaged. His store, okay, again on Ventura Boulevard, I would be sweating bullets. His warehouse is not too far away from them, but I'm not clear. I am under their, I get the feeling it's in Burbank. It's got the feeling of Burbank storage places to me when I see it on his channel. But yeah, it's just, yes, his store and his warehouse are under threat of fire as we speak. Not as strong as they were a few days ago, but the winds are shifting right now. Santa Anas are kicking up again, and you just don't know. You just don't know. And if I was him, I'd have the trucks out at my store and at my warehouse, and I'd move everything down to San Diego. I'd find myself a storage place. You're not going to find a place to live. That's the thing. You got thousands of families right now who can't find a place to live, man. I know two of them, and they have family that they can count on, but you know, that's a short term. In the long term, it's not, it's looking grim, but warehouses, you could probably get one still. And I'm talking about up and down the coast. People scattered in north and south, and there's just not a lot available. But warehouses, I'd get one if I was Norman. I'd move everything. I'd just move it. I would move it. Because it's just, wow. Norm is the Indian. It's like, I told you, if you guys have seen his video, his warehouse is like the end of Temple, you know, Indiana Jones, the first one. It's just a warehouse just full of boxes, and they're just full of guitars. It is an amazing thing to see. But anyway, anywho, those are my thoughts, guys. Just made some short notes on this tonight. And I'm, you know, looking at the fire, and as it's working its way up towards Malibu, down towards Brentwood, easily on its way through into Encino, Sherman Oaks, near Van Nuys, and you know, you at that point, you know. So yeah, it's a strong possibility. It's still not. You know, you got the 101 and the 405 between them, and that fire is moving. So we shall see. So those are my thoughts, guys. Not a long live stream tonight. Not a long live stream tonight. I want to keep it short. Yeah, the mudslides are next, guys. You know, now there's absolutely nothing that's holding those up. It's not just mudslides. It's especially on the PCH. You could have whole boulders come down, you know, that could block the highway, and that is extremely likely. And by the way, you know, those fancy houses on the cliff sides and things like that gone. Those will never get permitted ever again to be. So that particular view of the Pacific is no longer on the market, and it's directly because of the instability of that area and the possibility of mudslides, and they've just grown exponentially. So fun times coming up in the decade ahead. In the decade, it's going to take decades to rebuild this. And the losses of musicians, they may never bounce back. I mean, we are not a well-paid group as it stands right now. If I hear of anything that I can donate a guitar or something to, I will be doing that. That's the best thing that we can do to help people out, is make donations. Other things, there's a lot of things, but that's something that I would good about, that I can certainly do. Yeah. you know, we'll see. It's not yet, as I said, so that's a little bit far in advance to be talking about. But it's not too far in advance to talk about being prepared. So I want you guys to take what I said tonight to heart. Try to be prepared. Try to prepare yourself. And follow some of these steps. Maybe you have a few of your own you can add to that. And I'd love to hear some thoughts down in the comments section as well. But I'm going to keep it short tonight because I want to make a call to my parents tonight before it gets too late for me and before my father steps out. He's wearing his mask, but he is going out. It's kind of shogunai, as the Japanese say, can't be helped. But thought that I would bring that to you tonight. Those are my thoughts on the subject, and it is a subject that I really cannot stress to you guys how important it is. You can cast away all the other things that I've said and all the other live streams that I've done, not being nearly as important as tonight's message. Really prepare yourself, get yourself, have a plan. Have a plan A, B, and C. I always say that. I got a plan A, but I'm working on a B and C always. Always. I guess it's just born of the life that I've lived, being on the road. I'm traveling from country to that, and always having to have a plan A, B, and C in place because plan A may not always work and B may not always work, but C may. So always plan it out, guys. Always prepare. And you'll turn out a lot better, I think. All right, guys. Sorry for the short one tonight, but I will be releasing a new video this week. A short one, but a funny one, showing you the process of removing stickers from the back of your guitars. You see one in a pawn shop, and you say, "Oh, I'd love to have that one, but man, taking the stickers off, I don't know if I want to deal with the hassle of that." With some household goods that you have laying around, you can do it. I'll show you how I did it and how it turns out. And that'll be out Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe tomorrow, we'll see. I will get around to editing it. It's already shot. But look forward to that. Thank you guys for supporting this channel always. Thank you to the moderators for moderating. Thank you for supporting me and always being here for me, to the rest of you guys. And I pray that you stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Good night.